BLM? Since you want to be so black power?
BLM is a scam.
Clip that! Send it to the f***ing news.
Hands up, don't shoot! Hands up, don't shoot! Hands up!
In the summer of 2020, a movement swept across America. Black Lives Matter promised justice, equality, and support for black communities ravaged by systemic issues and police brutality. They preached a mission to uplift victims' families. But behind the rallying cries and raised fists, a darker truth emerged, one of betrayal, greed, and exploitation. This is the story of how Black Lives Matter, a group that claimed to champion the black community, turned its back on its own people.
An executive with Black Lives Matter is accused of siphoning more than $10 million from donors. The claim was made in a court filing by the grassroots arm of the organization. Shalomaya Bowers is named in the suit along with their consulting firm. Bowers has denied the claims, calling the accusations harmful, divisive, and false.
It's a disgrace, not just for African Americans, but for America as a whole. And it happened under the watch of the Biden administration, raising serious questions about accountability and the dangers of rogue groups exploiting race for profit. Black Lives Matter burst onto the national stage after the death of George Floyd, vowing to fight for black lives. Their message was clear: donate to us, support us, and we'll channel your generosity into real change, into helping black families, black neighborhoods, and the victims of racial injustice. They pointed the finger at white America, claiming systemic racism was the enemy, and people listened. Donations poured in, over $90 million in 2020 alone, according to tax filings reported by outlets like Breitbart News and Bloomberg. What's striking is who gave. It wasn't just black Americans rallying to the cause. White people, Latinos, Asians, people of all races opened their wallets, moved by the promise of justice.
Black Lives Matter's finances under scrutiny once again as tax documents show the nonprofit on the brink of bankruptcy.
Here's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins.
The movement swept the nation.
What do we want? Justice!
But a bright spotlight comes with intense scrutiny.
No peace!
Following the murder of George Floyd in 2020, supporters donated a staggering $90 million to Black Lives Matter. The nonprofit has spent most of that money, ending last year with a $9 million deficit. Federal filings from 2020 to 2022 show just a third, $30 million, went to other charitable organizations. $22 million went to expenses. This includes millions paid to board members and family members of co-founder Patrisse Cullors. For example, $1.6 million went to the father of Cullors' child for security services.
Instead of uplifting communities, BLM leaders lined their own pockets. Tax filings and investigative reports, like those from Breitbart News in March 2025, reveal a shocking reality. Much of that $90 million was spent on luxury real estate, exorbitant salaries, and personal pleasures. Co-founder Patrisse Cullors, for instance, used donations to buy a $6 million, 6,500 square foot mansion in Los Angeles, as reported widely in 2021 before her resignation amid public outrage. She didn't stop there. She snatched up homes in Atlanta too, turning charity into a personal piggy bank, stating the reason as, it's a sanctuary to keep her employees safe. There's many and cheaper ways to have protection, but we all know it's just a cover-up.
So give us a sense. I mean, we all heard back in the day, the New York Post reported on a bunch of this stuff, that this woman, Patrisse Cullors, one of many people involved in this, had bought, I think, 4 houses. I mean, give us a little sense of what happened here, because I know that they took in a lot of money over a very short period of time, and you looked into it. Like, what did you discover?
Yeah, it was sort of a historic amount of money in a very short period of time. It's hard to remember if we go back to 2020, the protests after George Floyd's death. That year, Black Lives Matter accumulated $90 million in donations. There's been reports like the one you mentioned of where that money has gone. A lot of it is still unaccounted for. We're not sure where all of it actually is. And this is sort of gets to, I think, the news peg here. There's 2 recent issues that have come up with the movement and the various satellite organizations. And I think we can dive into those and then kind of zoom back out and see what that kind of implies for the movement itself. On October 3rd, Sir Major Page, who was the controversial chapter head of BLM Atlanta, was sentenced to a 42-month federal prison stint for money laundering and embezzlement. He he had taken what was about 18,000 donations worth about $450,000 and spent it largely on himself. He had bought a house. He had paid off some expensive bar tabs, tailored suits, some wild nights out. And I think that, going back to that 2020 period, it's sort of funny to think about how widely BLM had penetrated the social consciousness, and it was just sort of omnipresent and everywhere. And it's funny to think now, 4 years later, that there's almost no mention of what happened in Atlanta. There's no mention in the press about where that money had went and how it was spent.
I would be outraged if I was a donor. Reports show $12 million went to mansions for founders, $2.1 million to a board member, and $1.6 million to Culler's brother for so-called security. Fancy vacations, lavish parties. These weren't investments in black families. They were indulgences for the elite few running the show. African Americans should be furious, and many are. This was their moment, a chance for real change, for resources to flow into communities that desperately needed them. Instead, BLM leaders exploited their own people, preying on the kindness and charity of black donors who gave what little they had, believing it would make a difference. Not a cent, according to posts on X and earlier reports, ever reached the black community in any meaningful way. And it wasn't just black donors they betrayed. White Americans who BLM claimed hated and oppressed them gave millions too. That irony stings. A movement built on racial division ended up uniting people in generosity, only for that goodwill to be siphoned off for private jets and poolside cocktails. Yet, as these scandals unfolded, little was done to hold BLM accountable. The Justice Department, as reported by the New York Times in March 2025, even moved to downsize units investigating fraud and corruption, units that might have dug deeper into BLM's finances. But that's just my thoughts and feelings. Let's hear from a popular rapper and what he has to say about BLM. Rapper Lil Yachty called it out in March 2025 on a cooking show with Quenlin Blackwell, saying, "BLM was literally a scam. They had bought mansions." And he's right.
You spent $100,000 on a trip to Disney once. How much have you spent on charitable causes this year? Let's start cooking these pancakes.
This year technically just started, so this year, it's hard to.
What about last year?
Well, last year, it's hard to gauge.
All right. So what about the year before last year?
Oh, well, that year, that's a good year. Yeah, it's just blurry. I be doing so much.
BLM? Since you want to be so black power?
BLM is a scam.
Clip that. Send it to the fucking news.
BLM was literally a scam. They had bought mansions, and you probably wouldn't know anything about it because you don't care about black people. So you don't follow black
I do care about black people. Look at my chocolate. You're mad.
It's a disguise.
You're mad. I think I'm literally the most pro-black person in this room.
Because you have an all-white staff?
Got him. We got him.
America let this rogue group form, fester, and fleece its citizens, all while race was weaponized for hate and profit. We can't allow this to happen again. Groups like BLM start with a kernel of truth. Yes, racial injustice exists, but twisted into a grift that divides us further. It's a disgrace to the black community, to the donors of all races who believed in them, and to America as a nation. Here's the truth. It's a poison that affects us all, and it's time we stop it, for everyone. Not just one group, but every human being, every American. Race shouldn't be the main factor in how we see each other. We're more than that. We're neighbors, co-workers, friends. BLM's corruption proves that focusing on division only breeds exploitation, not progress. The black community doesn't need BLM. It needs honest leaders, real investment, and a country that values every person for who they are, not their skin color. And America, we need to wake up, hold these groups accountable, and stop letting race be a tool for hate or greed. Black Lives Matter had a chance to change history. Instead, it became a cautionary tale. Let's learn from it. Let's demand better. For the black community, for all communities, for America. Because if we don't, the next scam is just waiting to happen. Remember to like, subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. Also, hit the notification bell to get updated news, in case you missed it.
Ask yourself, do I look like a radical socialist with a soft spot for rioters? Really? Really?